and it closes this opening that you have into the nasal cavity. So it prevents the movement of the food from the oral cavity back to the nasal cavity. That's the function of the uvula here. And when you look in your mouth, when your mouth is completely open, wide open, and you look at it inside the mirror, you can see something hanging in the middle. That hanging in the middle is the uvula. It's number 4. And then you have the pharynx. The next part actually after the mouth, before the esophagus, is the area that we call it pharynx. Pharynx is the shared area. Parts of it is shared between food and air. It means that that's the shared organ for both respiratory system and the digestive system. Your your pharynx consists of 3 major parts. The superior part here is called nasopharynx. The nasopharynx is called nasopharynx because it's just posterior to the nasal cavity. So this area here where my finger is pointing is nasopharynx, right? And then you have the oropharynx here. This area is the oropharynx. We call it oropharynx because it's just posterior to the oral cavity. How are you, Benya?
Great.
And then the last part here, from here up to here, this is called laryngopharynx. We call it laryngopharynx because it's just posterior to the larynx, right? You are not actually responsible for the nasopharynx because nasopharynx is the part of the pharynx which is devoted to breathing. It means that no food or drink shouldn't go here, and that's why that we have uvula here. So nasopharynx is not a part of the digestive system. But oropharynx and laryngopharynx, both of them are shared for eating and drinking and also breathing, right? So these 2 areas, we have to know these 2 areas for the digestive system because they are part of the digestive system. Oropharynx here and the laryngopharynx here, right? That you have it in the list. And then you have some, in the digestive system, you have some major organs, which is your mouth, oral cavity, parts of pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. Besides these major organs, we call them major organs because they receive the actual food. The food goes inside these organs, right? Besides these organs, we have some organs that we call them accessory organs. We call them accessory because they do not receive the food, but they help in digestion. For example, pancreas, thank you, is located here. Liver, and the gallbladder, also the accessory structures, tongue, salivary glands, teeth, all of those are the accessory structures that they help in digestion, but they do not receive the actual food, right? So here you can see some of them which are important. Salivary glands are between these accessory structures, and they are very important because they secrete saliva. What's the function of the saliva?
Digest or break down.
So it helps, it moistens the food parts, and it makes it ready for the swallowing, right? Here you can see the 3 major types of the salivary glands that we have here. The biggest one here is called parotid gland. The parotid gland is just next to the ear, to the external ear. So this guy here, number 7 on it, this is called parotid glands. Parotid glands, as you can see here, sends the duct into the oral cavity. Can you see that? So this is the parotid gland. Oh,
I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
so my finger is number 7. And there is another one here that we call it sublingual, and it makes sense because it's just beneath the tongue, right?
Pure
This is the
sublingual.
sublingual. Sublingual. And then the next one here is called submandibular because it's just inferior to the mandible, right? So this one where my finger is submandibular gland. So there are 3 major types of the salivary glands that we have to know. Parotid glands, submandibular glands, parotid glands, submandibular, sublingual. Okay. Parotid, sublingual, and sublingual. All right, clear? And then you have the esophagus. So this, the muscular tube that you have here, it says letter C on it. This is your esophagus. And then you have the stomach here. This is the whole thing here. It's called stomach. Stomach, guys, consists of some major parts. The first part of the stomach, which is connected to the esophagus, this area here where my finger is called cardia.
So it's the junction?
That's the junction with the esophagus. That's true. And then this part which comes up, this, what do you call it? The the round structures that you have on the top here is called fundus. This is the fundus of the stomach. The major part here all the way is called body on both sides. And where the stomach becomes narrower, can you see that here it becomes narrower? This is called pylorus or pyloric area. Both of them are correct. Pylorus or pyloric area, right? The body, which is the major part, itself consists of two subdivisions. The larger part here is called greater curvature, which is the larger curve that you have here. The smaller curve here is called lesser curvature. So both of them, greater curvature and lesser curvature together, make the body of the stomach. Inside the stomach, can you see these folds? These mucosal folds actually allow the stomach to completely become extended when it's full. So when your stomach is full, these folds that we call them rugae will disappear. So if I ask you, if I put a pointer somewhere here and ask you about these folds, you will tell me that these are rugae. The function of the rugae is that they allow the stomach to completely extend when it's full with the food, right? And then the pyloric area or pylorus is here that we talked about it. In the pyloric area, guys, you have the sphincter here. Can you see this area where my fingers are? This area is called pyloric sphincter. Sphincter in general are the round structures of the smooth muscle. And they are responsible when they close, they do not allow the substances to move, right? So there is one sphincter here from the smooth muscle that we call it pyloric sphincter. Pyloric sphincter is the sphincter between the end of the stomach and the first part of the small intestine that we call it duodenum. Duodenum is the first part of the small intestine here. Between these two, you have this sphincter that we call it pyloric sphincter. That's an important structure because it can control the movement of the substances from the stomach to the small intestine. The other thing that we have in the stomach are the layers of the muscles that we have in the stomach. We cannot see them on the model, so I may ask you on the picture. You have the picture in your book which shows these 3 layers. I'm sorry. I will show you. So if I want to ask you about these layers, I will ask you on the picture that we have here, not on, because we don't have it on the model. This is the picture. It is on page 566. It's figure 34.6. On the top, you can see 3 layers of the muscles that you have in the stomach. You will see that in all of the organs of the digestive system, like the esophagus, like the small intestine and large intestine, we have 2 layers of the muscles, always. The inner layer of the muscle is called circular layer. The muscle fibers are circular. The outer layer always is called longitudinal. In all of them, you have 2 layers of the muscle except for the stomach. In the stomach, we have 3 layers of the smooth muscle, which provide the movement for the muscle. As you can see here in the picture, the innermost one is called oblique layer. The middle one is called circular layer. And the outermost one is called longitudinal layer. It means that number 9 is oblique, number 8 is circular, and number 7 is longitudinal. So the only organ that you have in the digestive system, and it consists of 3 muscles, is the stomach. In the other ones, you have 2 layers of the muscles, right? So if I want to ask you about the 3 layers of the muscle in the stomach, I will ask you on the picture, on this picture.
Okay, so say that again about outer layer is longitudinal.
Longitudinal.
Inner layer is circular.
Oblique.
Okay.
Middle layer is circular.
I won't mess up my video here.
And then we have the
Sorry, I'm leaning on you.
Okay. So guys, and then the next part of the digestive system, the major organ, is the small intestine, right? The small intestine has actually 3 major parts. The 3 major parts of the small intestine in order. The first part of it is called duodenum. Duodenum is the first part and the shortest part of the small intestine. You have it from here to here all the way. This is called the duodenum. And as you can see here, duodenum receives the head of the pancreas. The head of the pancreas connects to the duodenum. And then the next part of the small intestine, which is the superior part here, is called jejunum. Jejunum in Latin means empty. And in the dead body, this part of the small intestine will be completely empty. That's why we call it jejunum. So jejunum is the superior part of the small intestine, and the inferior part of it, which is the longest part of the small intestine, is called ileum.
So what do you mean by it's empty?
It's empty. It means that there's no feces, no remnants of the food inside it when the person is dead.
Jejunum?
Jejunum. So the three parts of the small intestine that you have to know, the first part is here, duodenum. And then if I want to ask you about the jejunum, I will put a pointer somewhere here on the top, so you know that I'm talking about the jejunum. If I want to ask you about the ileum, I put the pointer somewhere here on the bottom, so you know that I'm talking about the ileum.
That's the small intestine.
That's the small intestine. And the small intestine here connects to the large intestine. This is the first part of the large intestine. And the small intestine here connects to the large intestine through another. I'm sorry, this is heavy, so I cannot. I feel bad, but.
It's okay. Our
That's okay.
awesome friends are going to send us these videos.
Oh, so that's great.
There's
That's
too
good.
many
So I feel
balls.
better. So this is the sphincter here that we call it ileocecal sphincter. So there's another sphincter here. One was here, pyloric sphincter. The other one is here that we call it ileocecal sphincter. Ileocecal is called ileocecal because it's between the ileum, which is the last part of the small intestine, and the cecum, which is the first part of the large intestine. So the first part of the large intestine is called cecum, and the last part of the small intestine is the ileum. So between these two, you have this sphincter here, which is called ileocecal sphincter. All right. Then you have your large intestine. Your large intestine is all the way here. I'm not sure.
That will be on the test.
Won't be on the test.
It won't be
Anyway,
on the
it's
test.
like this. It should be like this, but I don't know. It should go inside. I don't want to break it. Anyway, so this is the large intestine. The part of the large intestine that you have to know. This part, the first part, which is the dead end, that part is called cecum. And you can see that hanging from the cecum, you have the structure here that we call it appendix. If you have inflammation here, we call it appendicitis. And then you have the colon. All the way here, you have the colon, right? The first part of the colon, which goes up, is called ascending colon. The transverse part, the part that I couldn't fix it here, is called transverse colon. When it goes down, it's called descending colon. And at the end, when it connects to the rectum here, we call it sigmoid colon, right? So one more time. Cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, right? And on the surface of the colon of the large intestine, you can see that we have layers of the smooth muscle. Can you see this white line here? This white line here is called tinea coli. Tinea coli are the smooth muscles here on the surface of the large intestine, which are, when they contract, they make the pouches. Can you see these pouches? These pouches are called haustra. Each of them is called haustrum. So as the tinea coli, which is the line of the smooth muscle contracts, it makes some pouches here, and these pouches are called haustra. Each of them is called haustra. All right.
Is that where you get diverticulitis?
That's true. And the verticals are these structures actually which are hanging. Can you see this yellowish one? They're hanging from the tinea coli. Yes, diverticulitis is the inflammation of these guys. That's correct. And then you have the rectum all the way here. We have the rectum here. This part is called rectum, and the anal canal and the anus is at the end. This area is called anal canal, which leads to the anus. That's the place where the feces goes out. The haustrum is each of these pouches. Each of these pouches is called haustrum. Haustra is the plural form for all of them.
What's the function?
And then the function is that when it contracts, the function of the pouches,
Yes.
the haustra, you will see that in the movement of the of the large intestine. It sends the food from one part to another part as it's contracting. You will see that in the physiology. And then the greater omentum is the part of the peritoneum. Do you remember peritoneum? peritoneum is the largest serous membrane that you have in the abdominal cavity. It covers all of these organs here. And then the largest part of it is called greater omentum. Greater omentum mostly consists of the lipid or the adipose tissue. Let me see. Do we have the picture here? On one of the models that is absent here, we have the greater omentum. Otherwise, I will find it for you. But the picture is here on page 563, figure 34.3 on the top. Can you see this yellowish structure on the top? It's like the apron, which consists of the lipid or fat tissue and comes all the way here and completely covers the small and large intestine. And in the people who have the big bellies, that's the lipid that you have in the greater peritoneum, which is more than normal.
Which
And
big
then-
one? Adipose tissue?
Adipose tissue or lipid.
Is it the same as fibroid? Fibroid tissue?
No, that's certain. Fibroid tissue is a kind of the dense connective tissue. And then the teeth are the group of the accessory structures that you have for chewing, which is the part of the the mechanical digestion, right? The parts of the tooth that you have to know, unfortunately, we do not have the model, but we have the picture of the tooth here that I will show you, the parts of the tooth here on page 573, figure 34.8. You can see the picture of the tooth. So when you look at each tooth, you can see that each tooth consists of three major parts. The part of the tooth which comes out from the gum, we call it crown. And then the part which goes inside the gum, we call it root. And then between these two, the border between the crown and root here is called neck. So each tooth consists of crown, which is the part that you can see. Root is the part which goes inside, and between these two you have neck, right? And most of the tooth consists of the, I don't know what's the color, orange, yellow, brownish structure that you have here, number 12, that we call it dentin. That's what the doctors who work on the teeth are called dentists, because most of the tooth consists of the very hard and calcified connective tissue that we call it dentin. Dentin in the crown is covered with the hardest substance that we have in the body, and we call it enamel. So number 11 here, the whitish area here, is the enamel, which completely covers the dentin in the crown and protects it. And when you come into the root is covered, number 16, the very thin layer that you have here is called cementum. So dentin in the root is covered by the cementum. And inside the tooth, you can see that you have the cavity here. This cavity, number 15, is called it's called pulp cavity. Inside the pulp cavity, you have a lot of blood vessels, as you can see here, and the nerves. So when you have the toothaches, the reason that you have the toothaches is that inside the pulp you have a lot of nerves, and also you have a lot of blood vessels. And then this pulp and the pulp cavity continues in the root. Inside the root, this cavity is called root canal. And that's a procedure that you have in the dentistry, that they do root canals and they take the nerve out of this area. So that's a root canal. So these are the parts that you have to know in each tooth. So if I want to ask you about the tooth, that I will definitely ask you, I will use this picture. Make sure that you know all the parts of this picture that we covered.
34.8.
0.8, yes. Crown, neck, root, dentin, enamel, cementum, pulp cavity with pulp, and the root canal. And also we have to know the teeth that we have in the, I may ask you in the test, I may ask you on the skull. So on the skull you have the same picture that you have here in this picture, and you have to know the name of these teeth. So you can see that in each jaw, for example in the lower jaw, you have 4 incisors, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 24s are incisors. And then you have 2 canines, right? Number 23 is canines. You have 4 premolar. We are talking about each jaw. 4 premolar, and then you have 6 molars, right? So on the skull, you can see that on that skull, for example, you can see all of these teeth. I may put one of the skulls for you and put a pointer on one of these tooths, and you will tell me the name of the tooth. The next part, guys, is about the liver. Liver, after the skin, is the largest organ that you have in your body, right? We call it liver. The liver consists of two major lobes here. You can see that this is the liver. The liver consists of two major lobes that we call it right lobe. This is the larger part, and the left lobe, which is the smaller part. And between these two lobes, this white line here is called falciform ligament. That's the fold of the peritoneum. So left lobe and the right lobe, and between these two you have the falciform ligament. And then you have the structure here that we call it gallbladder. So the greenish one here is called gallbladder. From the liver we have two, I hope that you can see this part because it's really small. From the liver, we have two ducts which come out. Can you see these two ducts? Probably the others will look at the video. These two, one, two. These are called right and left hepatic ducts. The right and left hepatic ducts join together to make number 44 here for you. That's we call it common hepatic duct. And then common hepatic duct will join the duct which comes from the gallbladder. Can you see this guy number 48 which comes out? This is called cystic duct. So common hepatic duct connects to the cystic duct to make the common bile duct. Number 50 here is common bile duct. Common bile duct comes all the way here, it goes down here, and then connects to the duct of the pancreas. This is the pancreas. This is the major duct of the pancreas. So common bile ducts connects to the hepatic duct and opens into the duodenum through the structure that we call it hepatopancreatic ampulla. We call it hepato because it comes from the liver. Pancreatic comes from the pancreas, and ampulla, that's the structure which opens inside the small intestine.
Okay, so the common hepatic and the cystic duct form the common duct, and
common bile duct.
And that's basically the gallbladder and the pancreas meeting together. The ducts from those?
Common bile duct?
Yeah.
No, it's the combination of the common hepatic duct and cystic duct, which comes from the gallbladder.
Okay, both of these come from the gallbladder.
Right. So they join together to make the common bile duct. One more time, these two are called right and left. Don't worry which one is right, which one is left. Just know that these are the hepatic ducts. They join together to make the common hepatic duct. Common hepatic duct joins to the cystic duct. Cystic duct comes from the gallbladder. Together they make common bile duct. Common bile duct joins the pancreatic duct and opens into the duodenum through the hepatopancreatic ampulla.
So the common hepatic and the cystic